delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Mr. Fred Taylor regarding information report on Pioneer Cemetery Park and the cemetery bylaw. Add item 6E, delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Mr. Fred Taylor regarding information report on Piper Park Old Museum building redevelopment. Add item 6F, delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Ms. Jacqueline Barley regarding information report on Piper Park Old Museum building redevelopment. Add item 6G, delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Dr. Eric Ricker regarding information report on Piper Park Old Museum building redevelopment. Add item 6H, delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Mr. Lawrence Sperling regarding information report on 2009-2010 Burnett Smart Wood Stove Exchange Program. Add item 8A, proclamations, Frank Ney Polar Bear Swim Day. Delete item 11K, staff reports, unsightly premises, 626 Halliburton Street.
Thank you very much. Could I get adoption of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second? All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Adoption, please.
Move adopt the minutes as circulated.
Thank you.
Second motion.
Moved and second. All in favour? Carried. The presentations, I think the very first presentation we would like to make, if we could, is to do with the naming of a park. Actually, it's a renaming of a well-known park in town, and that is in turn in recognition of one of our very famous native sons, actually, and it's the late Sid Clark. And the Gyro Park is to be renamed for immediate release December 15, 2009. Nanaimo City Council has agreed to a request made by the Gyro Club of Nanaimo to rename Gyro Youth Park Sid Clark Gyro Park. The park is located in downtown Nanaimo between McClary Street and Windward Streets. The request is supported by the Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission. And it's Councillor McNabb, who is actually chairman of that committee, will join me with the presentation momentarily. The Nanaimo Gyro Club wants to honour Mr. Clark for his dedication and passion to local sports, especially for baseball. Sid Clark was a lifelong resident of Nanaimo and a member of the Nanaimo Gyro Club for more than 35 years. Sid served as past president and past district governor of the Gyro Club. He was one of the founding partners in the local McIsaac and Clark company law firm. We are always pleased to recognize those who have made a contribution in our community. In Sid's case, he was a dedicated volunteer and a champion for the local sports community. The Gyro Club has done a great thing by honouring him in this way, and that was a direct quote from the gentleman on my left, Park Recreation Culture Chair, Councillor McNabb. The park was first acquired in 1920 and includes ball diamonds, playing fields, and a field house. The Nanaimo Gyro Club will arrange to pay for any new signage required. And for more information, you can check with about parks in Nanaimo. Visit our website, www.nanaimo.ca. And are there any representatives of the family here who could step forward, please?
And the family is here.
Okay, we'd like to make a presentation if they could. And no, at the presentation. I think that might be number one. That's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations, everybody. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, we'd like to make a presentation, and we have the chairman here, and Chairman McNabb, if you'd like to make the presentation to the family. There we go. The Sid Clark Gyro Park, and that's the new name of the park. We're very, very proud to do this in commemoration for all the years that Sid put into Nanaimo. And thank you very much for coming. Anyone like to say a few words on behalf of the family?
You all should wait anyway. Everything comes now.
Come on, Bruce, a few words.
Well, I've known Sid for many, many, many years, and when he moved out of that house on Churchill Street,
Yes.
I moved into it, and on the closet door And it has, when you open the door, the ironwork is out. It has everybody's growth and how big they are and how tall they are and all the dates. And when I sold my house, I sold it to Dick Prose. I said, please don't paint the inside of this door. Because I started putting my kids on there. Brad Horman's on there. All of them are on there. So we go back many years. He's a great guy, and I'm proud to be able to do this. Thank you.
Delighted that this has come to pass.
Okay.
Well, and on my right is Dave Bakes from the Gyro Club. Dave, would you like to say a few words on behalf of Gyro?
Thank you, Mayor Rattan. Thank you. On behalf of the Gyro Club, we'd like to thank City Council and Mayor, and particularly Councillor McNabb, for allowing the park to be renamed the Sid Clark Gyro Park. I think you said it very eloquently about Sid's history. He was a local Nanaimo boy that did well in life and contributed to his community. I would just mention that he was on the board of directors of many sports organizations, including the Nanaimo Timbermen, who won the 1956 Mann Cup lacrosse. And Sid was just a great gyro. He worked his way up to be president of the club, and then he was also district governor. Very well known throughout the province as a Nanaimo boy, and just a really great guy. And we're absolutely delighted that we now have the Sid Clark Gyro Park. So on behalf of the Gyro Club, thank you very much to City Council.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think actually Councillor Sherry behind me as well was very involved with lacrosse around that same period of time, as was his brother. So, exactly.
When Lloyd was very young, we went to...
When Lloyd was very young. Sorry.
He was only a teenager.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Lloyd was just a teenager when we went back to the Mann Cup, and he and Sid were driving Harry Whipper's car all the way across, and Lloyd took his turn at driving, and we got to one very small town, and he said, "Sid, do you want to take over now?"
A little humor. Thanks very much for coming. Appreciate it. Okay, the next presentation is from Harmac, and I think Mr. Paul Sadler is here. And Paul's stepping forward now. And what we've asked, Paul, I know he's a busy guy, and probably because Harmac is doing so very well, which is great, great for the community, and a great community partner. And we've asked him if he could come tonight to give Mayor and Council and those watching at home and in the audience here just an update on the many recent achievements of Harmac. And Paul, welcome, sir, and start away.
Thank you, City Councillors, as well as staff, and of course all of the fine citizens of Nanaimo. For tonight, I plan on going through a very, very quick introduction once again of where our business stands today. I also want to bring people up to date on a very recent program that was implemented by the federal government earlier this year. So I'll quickly talk about the Pulp and Paper Green Transformation Program, the objectives that we have set out for ourselves, the proposed projects as well, and the next steps. And of course, I've got a few minutes for questions as long as you permit.
Sure.
So, with respect to our business, a very brief update or review of what it is. We have an ownership structure where we have 3 BC groups owning the business. We have the Harmac Employee Owner Group, Pioneer Log Homes Group out of Williams Lake, and the Sampson Group. Employees today, we've got about 270 full-time employees working at the mill. Our production today is about 1,000 tons per day. We produce northern bleached soft and kraft pulp. We have 2 pulp lines running today. 100% of our product is exported outside of the country, so it provides a tremendous financial benefit to both the province as well as the country. And last but not least, we continue to promote the fact that we are a community-based business. We have a community-based business plan. We really aim to work with regional stakeholders on our common needs and opportunities. And a couple of those that we are working on include things like liquid waste treatment for the community as well as water. So moving forward, let's quickly talk about the first year of operation. And I think we'd be certainly considered one of the most aggressive or certainly crazy Canadians for starting up a new business, probably in the worst economic crisis in 80 years. Very challenging economic environment for the first 6 months of operation in October 08 through to April 09. During that time, we only operated one production line. We had an excellent cost structure, however, and it did enable us to become profitable on a monthly basis starting in May of 09. Fortunately, we saw stronger than expected pulp markets beginning at that point in time right through to today, and indeed it gave us an incentive to restart our second production line in actually we announced it in early August and got the mill up and running sometime in and around the middle of September. Today, our major markets remain in China. In fact, about 50% of our production is going there. South Europe, USA, Korea, and Japan, basically in that order as well, order of size of markets, decreasing size. One very interesting thing, financial institutions in Canada remain very unsupportive of Canadian lumber, pulp and paper companies. It's been very, very challenging to find financing for businesses like ours. One thing I want to say before I move on is really provide a thank you to all of Nanaimo City Council, our regional leaders, and the Nanaimo First Nation leaders as well. Appreciate the public support we've been given, appreciate the continuing Class 4 tax considerations we've been given, as well as appreciate looking together at infrastructure expansion opportunities. Business conditions for 2010 certainly look a lot better than they did when we started our business. Pulp pricing is expected to remain relatively strong. We don't have any changes expected for our operating rates. We'll remain at 2 lines with about 270 employees, making around 340,000 tons per year. We continue to expand into higher value-added products. We continue to focus on China. As I say, 50% of our output goes there, and we continue to sign many more contracts in that part of the world. Naturally, we're very, very hopeful for higher housing start levels in the U.S. to improve conditions for the sawmills. That does remain one of the vulnerabilities of all of British Columbia's pulp and paper industry. We certainly got to see more of them running, producing the low-cost residual chips. Major investment program is underway at Harmac, and it's largely the result of the Canadian Pulp and Paper Green Transformation Program, which I'm about to tell you all about right now. It's a very, very interesting story behind this program, and it begins in the United States. In 2008, the U.S. government introduced an energy tax credit program which was really designed to stimulate the use of biofuel mixing in fossil fuels, really stretch out fossil fuels, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So it was intended to be a pretty good thing. Somehow the U.S. pulp and paper industry manipulated the process. They lobbied government to qualify their black liquor residual fuels by adding diesel. So they completely reversed the program intention and really corrupted the whole process. It resulted in, though, $6 billion of subsidies, probably more, flowing to U.S. pulp and paper companies over the past 18 months. We're talking about actually a subsidy that represents almost 1/3 of the cost of production of the product. And the other thing that very interesting about this particular subsidy program, it can be used for anything: operating expenses, capital upgrades, executive bonuses, for instance. So it's not a very good subsidy program. No subsidy programs are truly good. What the Canadian industry did, though, is we certainly spoke to government. We said, you've got to put an end to this. Well, they couldn't. And indeed, what the Canadian government did, much to my surprise, decided to respond by providing a similar type of program. The program that we have began on January 1st of 2009. It's capped at a $1 billion Canadian benefit. Through this particular program, we've been provided with $27 million in credits. It's refundable credits. We have to spend the money before we can get it back. And also, all of the funds have to be used to invest in capital upgrades that have an environmental benefit to the mill and the receiving environment. So examples of qualifying projects include projects that reduce fossil fuel consumption, reduce chemical consumption, reduce our overall emissions, but also potentially increase output of electrical power through bioenergy fueled projects. The federal government made the program a part of the economic stimulus package. So that's kind of a bit of a twist on it. The issue behind that is it results in a program that has very, very tight timelines. All of the spending has to be completed by March 31st of 2012. And to spend that kind of money in a facility like ours in that time frame is very, very challenging, especially for the engineers. As I say up here, Harmac Pacific will be refunded on a quarterly basis. We expect, really though, we have to have the capital to finance up to about 6 months of spending. So a sizable amount of cash has to be available to us to really take advantage of the program. I'm not going to go through the details of this, but we have a host of projects. There's probably about 28 of them in all. We're going to be grouping them into various components that represent sort of key elements of what the objectives of the program are. So we have projects that are going to reduce electrical power consumption, reduce natural gas consumption, reduce water use, and also reduce the amount of chemicals we use to process our products. So all pretty darn good. As far as benefits to Nanaimo and the region are concerned, we do expect to have a smaller carbon footprint going forward. We're going to reduce the power system demand on the Vancouver Island BC Hydro infrastructure. There will be a reduction in effluent emissions. And of course, there's going to be a certain amount of construction employment over the duration of the program. Preliminary engineering is expected to be completed, and applications will be submitted to NRCan. They're the group that's actually overseeing the program, and we are starting right now. It is a fairly complex program requiring a number of reviews and a number of opportunities to present to stakeholders within the region what the projects are. So we'll be moving forward with that. So information of these projects will be made available for review and comment to all regional stakeholders. So that wraps up my presentation for now. And,
well, thank you very much, Paul. I think, as the general manager, a great deal of credit should go to you personally for the vision and direction you've given, because I think a lot of the accomplishments are due to your efforts. You've been there a number of years, actually in the previous operation as well, and I think it's certainly to your credit. I know Levi Sampson, I believe Levi is the president, and the Sampson Group have also done a great deal, but I think the background credit is yours, and it's well deserved too. Are there any questions for the delegations?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, Mr. Sadler, and thank you very much for that upbeat report. It seems that the future is bright for Harmac, or Nanaimo Forest Products. I have a question for you that concerns the future. In the future is the possibility of you getting a new neighbor in the form of Ocean View Resort and Spa, or as we used to know it as Cable Bay. And I remember seeing correspondence from yourself to the then city manager, Mr. Berry, from the beginning of 2007, where you advised the city that the then Cable Bay fellows had come to Harmac and asked for amenities, and I take that to mean access, water, sewage, etc. And you advised the city that Harmac had decided not to take part in that because you are of the opinion that heavy industry, a pulp mill on the one side, and a resort type as Cable Bay is going to be, on the other hand, would not make for very compatible neighbors, if I remember your own words. My question to you then is, have you still the same opinion? And if you have changed your opinion, why would you have done that?
Well, I would say that my opinion really hasn't changed, that if care is not taken in the design of a development, next to an industrial facility, I think you can find yourself in a situation where, you're going to have lots of issues to deal with in the future. So, my emphasis to those groups involved in the development is to work closely with us. We do have an interest, in fact, in working together in a couple of areas, in particular with infrastructure support. There's some tremendous opportunities, actually, for both the developers of Ocean View as well as ourselves. We're exploring those opportunities. So, we understand and appreciate that progress can't be stopped. Development will continue in our region. The key is to work closely with those parties to make sure that issues that we see in the future that could be problematic are addressed well in advance of that. So we do have ongoing discussions with those involved in the development and expect to see those discussions continue.
Thank you for that response. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you.
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Very informative. And congratulations and continued success. Okay, we're now going into delegations pertaining to agenda items, and they have up to 10 minutes. And oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's more than 4 on there. Okay. Dealing with the financial plan. Is that correct on this one? On each topic, what we're going to do is there is a policy whereby we'll restrict delegations to 5 minutes if there's 4 or more speakers on the same subject. I'm sure that will apply to the museum site. I'm just asking for staff. There isn't on this one?
Your Worship,
okay.
At this time, we don't see more than 4 on any one topic.
Okay. I just point out so it's easier to explain later on if more delegations come forward. So, are there any delegations pertaining to the 2010-2014 financial plan? Okay, we'll move into Mr. Doug Bromwich, Insight Developments. Mr. Bromwich, welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Doug Bromwich, Insight Developments, 711 Poplar Street. I'm here tonight with my associate, George Hansen, mainly to answer any questions or clarify any issues that may come out of your Development Services Report, item E on page 5. So I'd like to be available for any kind of questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any direct questions right now? And failing that, that's fine, thanks. I'm just asking. I see none on the screen. And the next delegation is Mr. George Hansen, Insight Developments, possibly on the same subject. George, did you, same thing, or did you want to come down and explain the same thing? Okay, fine. So you're available for questions later on? Okay, seconder?
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next delegation, Mr. Fred Taylor, 204 Emery Way, regarding the report on the Pioneer Cemetery Park and Cemetery Bylaw. Welcome, sir.
I understand Nanaimo has 7 cemetery burial grounds within the city boundaries. Land use for interment of human remains. Next. There's 3 protected cemeteries on title. Next. One is Nanaimo Bowen Cemetery. Next. The next is Wellington Cemetery on title protected. Next one. And Townsite Road Chinese Cemetery protected on title. There's 4 with no protection on title. They're Pioneer Cemetery, Garden Memorial to Chinese Pioneers on Stewart Avenue, the Pest House at the corner of Wakesaya and Nanaimo Lakes Road, St. Peter's Cemetery up on Fitzwilliam Street. I must note the proposed bylaw 7084 describes Bowen Cemetery as 10.2 acres. Next, there please, back one. And here is actually even off of the city map on your website, and there is another 6.3 acres that's not accounted for in your bylaw. And I'm just wondering if it's for expansion of Bowen Road. Because this cemetery, even on, you can see all the acreage that printed right on the map of each section of the property making up the property. So what are you going to do with the other 6 acres? It's protected on title.
Okay. Did you, just a matter of, did you ask that of staff before today, or are you going to wait till tonight?
I just noticed that today.
Okay.
That there's a mistake in the acreage. Today's report to council claims no staff report to council about road encroachment into Pioneer Cemetery. The report mentions procedure for disposal of the land and suggests city bylaw for protection, but fails to acknowledge the council today can amend the bylaw. Next one, please. Here is an email. Provincial legislation does not require licensing of only active cemeteries. Inactive cemeteries may be registered with the status of inactive noted. And here's an email from the director in Victoria stating so. Why has staff requested all the info about registration as reported in the report? As stated in the report, licensing the cemetery creates a need to get provincial approval to alter the site or change its use. Is there a hidden agenda for any part of this property? Next, please. I note at the bottom, here's a Parks property report, and I note at the very bottom that the engineering department of the city of Nanaimo is wanting to reserve some of this land for road of this cemetery. Right on the bottom there. Next, please. Here's a letter from the land department of the city of Nanaimo requesting information from the cemetery branch in Victoria to put a road over the cemetery. Here's the
What's
letter.
the date of that letter? I can't read it from you.
None of this has ever come forward to the public.
No, but my question was, what's the date on the letter? The print's so small I can't see it.
August 26, 1998.
This is when we were discussing this
1998,
before.
okay.
Yeah, we discussed this before and it never came before the public.
Okay.
Next. Next, please. Here's a letter from the Kiwanis Club is on record for protection of Pioneer Cemetery. The restoration of the property after neglect by the city remains of recognition. It was quite a mess and they offered to go in there and clean it up, which they have done.
That was 1999, okay?
As agreed with Mr. Franson, a registered cemetery records are of historical research value. When you recognize these lands, 7 lands, we hope, as a cemetery, eventually the names in those cemeteries become a website worldwide for research, everything. Right now we've got a slow process getting Nanaimo Cemetery, your main cemetery, on a website, but there's a big gap of where names are in our city. Next, please. The Heritage Conservation Act also protects cemetery sites, which in your website or in your letter doesn't say that. But Section 13.2b protects those who are buried in active or inactive cemetery. Mr. Franson's reason for demand of return of a plot to the city at original sale price clearly is without justified reason. To refer to other cemeteries where several plots can be purchased and resold at a profit doesn't fit with Nanaimo practice, as only one plot may be purchased and only by the estate of a deceased person. So how can you buy a whole bunch to make money and sell them? Which is one reason he gave when I had a meeting with staff. Some of the reasons I don't agree with in wanting demand of a plot returned to the city at the original cost so the city can turn around and make the money on it. I don't agree with that in the bylaw. I think that's very wrong. And there's no legislation demanding that. So I've tried to show you that there seems to be an initiative to want to put that road across that Pioneer Cemetery eventually. There's letters and correspondence, and I think it's time that we call it a cemetery, protect it as a cemetery. It's not in the parks bylaw as a park. It needs protection. In fact, the other properties do as well. There's people there.
Okay, we have a question. Councillor Sherry.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Taylor, you indicate that you have a a copy of a fax to Victoria with regards to the widening of Comox Road?
Yes?
Knowing the zeal that you put in there, were you able to get a response from Victoria as to...
I have a copy of that response, yes.
Okay.
It suggests that we don't know about the cemetery. I have, and don't forget, this was around the year 2000 when it came before the previous council, and I did provide all the information on that cemetery to the cemeteries branch, but it hasn't officially created a file. They have copies of the information in a pile with other paper of other things in the province, but it hasn't created a file which they can just say there's 4 cemeteries or 5 cemeteries in Nanaimo that we're fully aware of, protected.
So the other question is, you identified 3 that are registered and 4 that are not registered. Then you're suggesting that maybe we should do the necessary bookwork to register those other 4s?
Well, it's no cost to register with the archaeological branch, which in your report saying doesn't happen. It's pre-European time, which unfortunately it wasn't shown on the screen there, but it's there's a section in there that covers today's grave sites. And they quoted it to me, and I had it as a screen slide there. But there is a section that covers anything. I don't know why it's not there, but it's there.
Thank you.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. A question to staff, if I may. Could you explain, or do you have an explanation for the discrepancy in acreage on Bowen Road that Mr. Taylor alluded to?
Do you have that? Your Worship, I don't think we do at this time. Mr. Taylor just brought it up. We'd be happy to look at it. Obviously, we'd like the records to be correct as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Patchy asked one of my questions. Just a second question to staff. Is there a reason why all cemetery sites wouldn't be categorized or classified under the same absolute protection that the 3 sites that we know are in that particular bylaw?
Mayor Rattan, I can answer Councillor Bestwick's question on that. So it really is a choice of councils what level of protection you want to provide on a cemetery. So right now we have 3 active cemeteries that we do have registered under the Cemetery Act or legislation. And so we have Pioneer Cemetery Park, which has been designated as, in the report, it notes that it's on the Heritage Register and the Register of Historic Places. It is also protected in the, I got to get the name of the report, under the Provincial Heritage Branch, under the Heritage Conservation Act, because any time that there is a site that could be historical in nature or archaeological in nature, that falls under the Heritage Conservation Act. So that's irrespective of whether you have it set up now as essentially a park with a cemetery zoning, or as in the report, if you set it up, you can go, if you want further protection, to move to a situation where you can designate it under the I'm just referring to my report here. So you could adopt a bylaw under the Heritage Conservation Bylaw or a Park Dedication Bylaw under the Community Charter. So that would be another option available to provide additional protection if you wanted. And the other option, and that's what Mr. Taylor is talking about, is that you could license it as a cemetery and a non-active cemetery, and that would provide some protection as well. And all of them provide similar types of protection. Mr. Taylor is mostly in favor of the cemetery licensing because if there are any changes to the cemetery, they have to be okayed or authorized by the province, as noted in the report. If you do a bylaw, then the bylaw changes. Anything that would be altered or developed on the site would actually be a council motion to make a change there, or to change the bylaw. So it all depends on what level you of council are comfortable with in protecting or having that site designated as.
So just a follow-up, if I may. Thank you. So the 4 sites that we're making that Mr. Taylor is making reference to, based on your explanation, are they all inactive? And under the heritage designation, is there a greater degree of protection, or is there a lesser degree of protection for those sites as we know them?
So the 4 sites, I believe, are you referring to the sites where the
there's 7 and 3 are active and 4 are inactive.
Okay. Oh, and the 4 inactive ones, only one's owned by the city. So we really only have jurisdiction to do what we would like as you as city councilor, the city, on the Pioneer Cemetery Park. The other 3, two of the sites are owned by other agencies in the city, and the 4th site is actually currently a city park. So that would be covered by the Heritage Conservation Act, but there is no designation there other than it being a park, because really it wasn't formally defined as a cemetery at any point in time. And that was in Colliery Down Park.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I believe there's only one that's not owned by the city, and that's St. Peter's. And I am in favor of them being registered at no cost to the archaeological branch and licensed as well, both ways. And then the one you cannot license is St. Peter's, because it's privately owned. The only way it can be protected is through the archaeology branch. I will tell you, both branches have this presentation in their hands. They know about these 7 cemeteries well now. So I ask you to cooperate and register them.
Okay.
Move and see delegation.
Moving in, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir. Now, you might as well stay there, Mr. Taylor, and we might as well get you up. And first you've got now a report on the Piper Park Old Museum Building redevelopment.
Thank you, Mayor Rattan. I speak against the removal of the old museum building. I support the museum building future use into park planning process. I support a public request for proposal for improvements to and operation of the building. One example, continuing in the footsteps of the museum, a central location for records of the city operated by Nanaimo Archives, replacing many storage locations and staff time searching for information. In other words, there's parkage with storage in of records. They're throughout the city, in the city basement and everything. Put it here and you've got some staff that can do your work of your own staff at City Hall. I do not believe the museum building creates any obstacle to a safe, vibrant downtown park. Pedestrian through and into the park may enhance opportunity for public art within the park and could enhance the foundation of a rooftop harbor view for visitors. I question the 2006 capital plan of $515,000 and the expenditure of these funds. The tax rate remained the same as if the expenditure occurred. Where did the $515,000 go in 2006? I raised question to the cost of repairs. I believe there's a hidden agenda in the dream of a hotel location and construction. I strongly support a fellow citizen's opinion of late, whose letter to the editor stated, if there's a demand for a hotel, developers will be knocking at the doors of City Hall. Thank you.
Okay, before you go, we've got some questions again. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for that. I kind of concur with your feelings. In 2006, I'm advised a promise was made by the then council to have full public and open consultations on the future of Piper Park. And I have been assured by staff on earlier occasions that that process will happen. And so maybe Mr. Harding could just elaborate on that.
Yes, Your Worship, if I can. Sure, so there is an adopted planning process that we did do, that Commission and then Council adopted in 2006. We have it on hold, as Councillor Pachi knows, until we know a little bit more what's going on with the hotel. Because as we said in the past, if we start the planning process, one of the first questions we always get is, well, how is the park going to interface with this future hotel? And as we've said earlier, we can proceed anytime Council wants on the planning process. We just haven't started it until we knew a little bit more assurance of what was going on.
Thank you.
Councillor McNabb.
I want Mr. Taylor to know that there's no hidden agenda, but he accuses us of a hiding agenda. This is not. The Parks and Recreation Culture went over this. We worked hard on it, and it's been going on for quite a while. No decision's been made yet, no recommendation's been made yet, and there's no hidden agenda.
Well, why is there a need to tear it down? And just
because I'll tell you, we're looking at $1,300,000. That's 2% on your taxes.
I'm asking you to reconsider that in proposals to do it as it says in your report.
Okay. Well,
there could be opportunity for somebody to use that building.
Yes, and I agree with you 100%. And we're working on that. So don't say we got a hidden agenda.
Maybe just for clarification, Mr. Harding, do you want to reiterate about the public meeting that you're talking about earlier?
Yeah, so the planning process that was adopted in 2006 was a number of planning principles, which I won't go through.
No, just give us the time on it.
Because mainly it's one we've followed in most of our planning for public parks, be it Mafale Sutton or Neck Point. Typically, we do some background research about the park itself, its history. We then do an open house to get some initial feedback from the general residents as also stakeholders around the area.
But will this be done with this particular site at the old museum site?
That's where the planning process.
And when will that be happening? Do you know roughly? Give me a ballpark.
Whenever the council wants us to go ahead with it.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Councillor. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's been put on hold pending further information about any potential hotel development adjacent. The funding for it is actually in the 2012 budget, but that could be moved as directed, or if something happens to precipitate wanting to do it earlier. Staff presented this report on options at the request of Council. In our opinion, there is no urgency to do anything at this point. Staff concur that a planning exercise would be fruitful, and that's why our recommendation at this point that the report just be received for information.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Unger.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask?
Just one sec. Councillor Unger has a question for you.
I just wanted to bring up the point that we're hearing a delegation, and this comes up under item 12E later in the agenda, which is the report from the Director of Parks and Recreation. So I think we're jumping the gun a bit here.
Mr. Chairman, in the questions to me as a delegation, I would like to ask through the chair to Mr. McNabb why you're withholding the plans until you know about a hotel.
The hotel is never once. Well, I don't care what Mr. Kenning says. I'm talking about Parks and Recreation Culture. The hotel issue never came up once.
Let's hold the meeting now and
No, we're not going to
hear what we want to do with it.
We're not going to do that, okay? Now, do you have any more points to raise? And if not, we'll thank you. Did we get receipt on this one of the delegation?
I'll move that.
Seconder? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next delegation we have is Ms. Jacqueline Barley. Ms. Barley, are you present? Welcome. You have up to 10 minutes. If there was one more delegation, you'd be down to 5, but we've only got 3 at this point. And
thank you very much, Your Worship, and council members. Thanks for being here. I'm just going to read a piece here. I have a slideshow going on of some photographs of what we're talking about. I'm just going to read what I've written. The Nanaimo Centennial Museum building is still in danger of being demolished. Nestled unobtrusively and attractively amongst a grove of mature trees on its hilltop home in historic Piper Park, the Nanaimo Centennial Museum building overlooks our harbor's boat basin and is a welcome beacon to visitors and townspeople alike. Built in 1967 to celebrate Canada's 100 years as a country and to showcase Nanaimo's heritage, the Nanaimo Centennial Museum building has served our community for over 40 years and has now become an integral piece of our history itself. In other words, a sense of place that is unique to Nanaimo. The Nanaimo Centennial Museum building is also of architectural significance, due in part to one of many design features, its octagonal shape. As retired architect A.L. Les Barley, who is still living in Nanaimo, stated in a newspaper article, I looked at the site and gave him, that was Alderman Jack Parker at the time, some sketches of an octagonal building, keeping in mind the feeling of the bastion not too far from it. The Nanaimo Bastion is a Hudson Bay Company fort and one of the oldest buildings in British Columbia. The Nanaimo Centennial Museum building has additional historical value as a unique example of 1960s architecture. Another feature included and built into the design was a relatively new technology at the time, and one that is still germane today as a tourist draw, a camera obscura. A camera obscura is a specialized camera that captures a 360-degree image of the exterior view. For example, in the case of the Nanaimo Centennial Museum building, the harbor, the mountains, the city, and projects this image to an interior surface. The cupola at the peak of the roof is the eye of the camera that gathers the visual information to be projected. This feature has yet to be implemented. Formerly the home of the Nanaimo District Museum, the Nanaimo Centennial Museum building is a sound, attractive, and useful building with many more years of service to offer our community. There are still many user groups interested in occupying the premises, one of which is a science center, which would promote education and foster tourism. The Google overhead image shows the building's interesting octagonal roof shape and the surrounding park, an oasis in the quickly developing and growing downtown core. The Nanaimo Centennial Museum building and Piper Park are an important reminder of our city's historic foundation. Together, they have graced this small waterfront hilltop for over 40 years as a testament to the history, settlers, citizens, and children of Nanaimo. I also have a couple of additions to the report, just information clarifications. One is the building is built on solid rock. I believe blasting was necessary. That was a question in the report. And I can personally guarantee that there was strict adherence to the building code. It was one of the major things when buildings were built back there, that the building code had to be ultimately adhered to. The structural engineering report that apparently was not able to be found is with the Vancouver office of Reed Jones Christopherson. And the building itself, there was some question, I believe, in the report about it being 2 or 3 stories. It was designed and built as a 2-story building with an attic, and the attic was for the camera obscura. And it is steel reinforced concrete, the slab and the walls, which is very unusual in Nanaimo because Nanaimo usually has only wood structure buildings. It is actually built like a bunker. So if there's any questions and I can answer them, I'd be glad to. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Thank you, Ms. Barley. Again, very good presentation, so thank you very much for that. I also am of the opinion that every possibility has to be given to find out what can and what cannot be done with this building. And of course, money is quite a big issue in this regard. If this council promises you that we will give the public, people like yourself and others, every opportunity to come up with all the innovative ideas that must be around somewhere, if we guarantee you that opportunity, will you work on that? And
I certainly will.
Okay.
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that you believe the building is sound as is and could be used as is?
Yes, it is. In the report it said it was structurally sound. It needs some work because it's been neglected for the last several years.
Okay.
I don't think it needs to be renovated, but that's my personal opinion, and I'm not an engineer. I'm just a citizen of Nanaimo,
well,
a tax-paying citizen who's interested in our history.
Okay, and assuming it did need some significant work to bring it up to standards, how do you propose we should pay for that?
Well, it's interesting because since this started, I've had a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails from different interest groups, and one in particular does have a financial backing. So it's just a matter of being open to the suggestions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just might add, and also thank you for the presentation. I just might add, there was a science group that spoke, actually came to speak to me about the possibility of an observatory there. I don't know if that's a reference you're making.
No.
Maybe it's a different group.
No, that's not.
It just so happened that Dr. Ralph Nielsen of BIU actually stopped by shortly after that, and so to those people rather that are interested in an observatory, that came up in our discussion, he suggested their science building at BIU would be a possible location, and he suggested it could be at very little or possibly no cost. So for those, it may not be your project, but for those interested in astronomy that had indicated interest in that site, there might be an alternate location too. So I see no further questions. Could we have a motion to receive? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Thank you very much,
ma'am. Thank you.
We had an email from Dr. Ricker, who's been held up by the snow and can't get here.
Oh, okay. We'll withdraw that, remove that one item then. So we'll skip on to the next delegation, Mr. Lawrence Sperling, I beg your pardon, and it's to do report on the 2009-2010 Burnett Smart Wood Stove Exchange Program. Welcome, sir. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I find it ironic you say I'm going to report on the Wood Stove Exchange Program. Not at all.
Well, that's what my information says. If it's incorrect, I apologize, but please continue on.
I'm going to speak about another matter, and I've given you each a handout. I should have done a PowerPoint, I realize, but anyway, thank you for this opportunity. As you'll notice on that handout, I tried to speak to you about 4 years ago when Mayor Corpan was here, and it's still relevant, actually, the submission. And the submission I made was, as City of Nanaimo and current bylaw protection for non-cigarette smokers, whereby fines of up to $2,000 may be imposed upon the violators, the City of Nanaimo has a very rigid control on backyard burning, where burning is either not allowed at all, or if it is, if anyone should see even or smell a hint of smoke, the fire department will attend the scene, extinguish the fire, and may even fine the perpetrator up to $2,000. And that's all well and good. Now I'd like to speak to a similar, yet much more outrageous situation that virtually borders on criminal, yet is unimpeded. Again, it has to do with smoke, but this smoke is apparently different because it emanates from a wood stove installed to provincial guidelines. Then how often or how much smoke is set from this machine, and it doesn't matter if it should fill the neighbor's yard and home, there's no consequences to the perpetrator. The victim neighbor may even have to take prescription drugs, as in our case, to be able to breathe in their backyard and home, but that doesn't matter. The wood stove chimney may even exit at the neighbor's kitchen window and blow down the crawlspace access, thereby filling the crawlspace and home with the toxic smoke. But that doesn't matter either, because it comes from a wood stove. The victim neighbor has no escape. Opening the windows only exacerbates the problem, because the house is surrounded by smoke. The wood stove may even be a recent installation in an old home that is also heated by electricity. And therefore the wood stove is not necessary to heat the home, but that doesn't matter either, because the wood stove is installed to provincial code. Now there is a bylaw that is in place that could be used to correct this. And I know and we've had lengthy talks on this. It is called a nuisance bylaw, where there's a nuisance in your bylaw says an activity which is substantially and unreasonably interferes with the person's use and enjoyment of land he or she occupies, or which causes injury to the health, comfort, and convenience of an occupier of the land. Well, if the situation doesn't describe a an injury to health, comfort, or convenience, then nothing does. So what I'm asking for you folks to do is to enforce that bylaw. Ms. Marika Corpan, when I wanted to do this 4 years ago, you'll see on that fax there, I tried to do this 4 years ago, and that thing I just read was in your second page of your document. Corpan's secretary called me and asked me to hold off on this very contentious issue, that they would like to strike a committee to gather the facts. Well, this committee was first headed by Toby Seward, and then he passed it along to Ted Swaby, and Ted finally emailed me saying it was all my problem, and the city had nothing to do with it. He also said that their lawyers, the city lawyers, had determined that this was not the tort of nuisance. Well, the Ontario, you'll see in that the Ontario Supreme Court differs. A very lengthy court case in last year, 2008, that very explicitly states it is tort of nuisance. And if you read that, it describes our situation exactly in that court case. And I'd like to draw your attention to in that handout to the toxicologist report. You cannot imagine the misery. Now, this is in October of 2005, the misery of when a wood stove moves in next door. One of the side effects of repeated wood smoke exposure is a heart attack.
Is that it?
Excuse me.
Oh.
Well, 4 years ago, or 4 weeks ago, my wife did have.
You're on page 2, is it? Do you want to take a minute and catch your breath here?
Yeah, please.
Maybe we can get you. Do you want a glass of water? It might just give you a bit of a break there, Mr. Swaby. Thank you.
Sorry, I had a stroke myself, so...
That's fine.
But anyway, 4 weeks ago, the wife did have that heart attack. The neighbor, he wants $1,000. And I tracked down the installer of the fireplace, the wood stove, but he said even if we extended the chimney, he said it still may spill over the chimney and still come into the house. We've sealed our windows. We even had to vacate the home at times. We've added doors. We've shut off the furnace so it wouldn't circulate the smoke. And I did talk to the installer. I found the installer, like I said, and I talked to the Nanaimo installer, and he said he wouldn't ever put a wood stove there. He said that's not the place to ever put a wood stove. He said he wouldn't, and I thought that was quite commendable of him that he had that conscience that he wouldn't just sell a wood stove to anybody. Because there's some places a wood stove should not be, and that's one of them. If you look at that third page, you'll see a picture of the smoke that comes off the chimney over the fence. It swirls in our apple tree and just pushes right through the house. And it doesn't matter what I do, I can't stop that smoke. And no, I've been in real estate for, 3 decades, and now that this is all documented, this is called a latent defect, and I cannot sell that house without disclosing this latent defect. So it's not saleable. And you talk about the wood stove exchange program, but that's the wrong way to go. I have people I sold their house in Parksville, and they bought a house in Abbotsford, a new subdivision. The whole subdivision is geothermal.
I'm aware of that, yeah.
And it costs $90 a month, 90, for heat, light, and hot water. Nothing. And they get cooling in the summer, heat in the winter, for $90 a month. And that's the way we should be going. And the beauty of, actually, for the community, the municipal buildings, we have a huge reservoir of water in our old coal mine, Gold Seam, that would make a wonderful source of energy, heat. That's an aside. I just wanted to say something too. The Montreal and the nearby Hampstead, I think, city have really been working hard on this. And I know that one city, they have, in 7 years, they'll have no more wood stoves. They're slowly phasing them out. In 7 years, there'll be none left in that city. It's on the island of Montreal. And the Montreal Health Department determined that in 9 hours of burning, a wood stove emits the same pollution as a car does driving for 1 year, 18,000 kilometers. 9 hours from a wood stove. So Rob Lawrence says there's 9,000 wood stoves in Nanaimo. To realize in one winter day, the pollution emitted from those 9,000 stoves is equal to half of the cars in Canada, what they pollute in one day.
Wow, okay. Now, we're getting close to the end of the time. There is a question. Do you have a minute to answer? We have Councillor Beswick and then Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Sperling. This question is to staff. Is our current nuisance bylaw as written enforceable as explained in the circumstances by Mr. Sperling?
Your Worship, that was the subject of a report, I believe, as Mr. Sperling said in previous years. That would be something we'd want to look into and bring back to Council an opinion once we had a look at it. In past, it was not deemed to be possible to consider this a nuisance, one in which we would feel that we would be able to sustain any legal challenges on, and that would be something we'd like to report back on.
Then is it fair, just to follow up, Your Worship, is it fair to suggest that nuisance bylaws are predicated on subjective or objective information?
Your Worship, every adjudication by Council of a nuisance bylaw has some element of that in it, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. I find it deplorable that somebody can burn a wood stove and damage the health, the physical and mental health of his neighbours. I think that whatever this council and city staff can do to bring in a nuisance bylaw or to take care of the situation, Mr. Sperling has appealed to us on numerous occasions. I think in the 1 year I've been on council, I've had at least 12 emails from Mr. Sperling asking us to please take his side and listen to his concerns. So whatever this city staff and council could do, I greatly urge that we do that.
Thank you. Councillor Holden.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Sperling. Your presentation suggests that the provincial building code has been used as the reason why we can't take action, and that it's provincial legislation that takes precedence over local legislation?
The province keeps on deferring to the city. You know, they say the city has to do everything. I've now received emails from the building code administrator, the person that writes them up, and he just said, he just keeps on deferring to the city. He said they only do worry about the house that's the thing with the wood stove. It only pertains to the house that it's in. They worry about fire, nothing else. They don't care where the smoke goes.
Yes.
It has to be 2 feet above any roof that's within 10 feet of the chimney in the house it's in. Mm-hmm. And the 18-inch setback and things like that, nothing else.
Nothing else. So that's what the provincial building code is concerned about.
That's all it is. That's all we have for wood stoves is provincial building code. And to your credit, most of the cities are like that. They just defer to the guidelines. Except to their credit, I guess in Quebec there's 2 cities now, Montreal and Hampstead, I think it is, that is doing something about it, different. Mm-hmm. And the pollution is phenomenal, like I said, from one wood stove.
I certainly think that you have had to suffer from this toxic nuisance for far too long, and that we should be doing everything we can to remedy that situation. And I will certainly be supporting another investigation of it. I know we investigated it 2 or 3 years ago, but 4 years ago. So that's not adequate in my view. We need to do more to try to remedy that situation.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you very much for this. Really appreciate it.
Yes, the point that Mr. Sperling made, and I had talked about it, we only just, with a horizontal line 10 feet out from the pipe has to be 2 feet above, and that's a simple rule. It also can be inside of the 5-foot setback. Chimneys can be within that distance on the outside of the house too, so it can make it quite close. I'd like to see if we need a motion to staff to get a report back on the nuisance bylaw and whether it's been updated. So,
well, I think the recommendation's already been made and staff is going to act on it.
Do you need a motion to respond? No.
The motion would be appreciated.
I make a motion that...
Well, let's hear. There's still a whole lot of people who want to be heard from, and then we'll come back to you if you'd like to make the motion.
Okay. Yeah,
Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Sperling, I started looking into this shortly after I was elected 4 years ago and have gone by numerous times at different times of the winter and actually taken pictures. And every time it is the same. There's always smoke, and it seems to be drifting into your yard. And I've been in touch with the Canadian Clean Air Alliance as well, and they have presented a couple of bylaws that exist in other communities in British Columbia where they are dealing with this, and that will certainly be taken into consideration. If there are bylaws in other communities that could help solve your problem, we'll certainly be looking into this. And I was going to make a motion, but I will support Councillor Kipp's motion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Well, Mr. Sperling, you know that about a year ago I came to your house and your wife very graciously invited me inside and showed how you had taped up all your windows with plastic, and I've never forgotten that, and of course I've had the same emails that everybody else has had from you over the period. I want you to know that I will support whatever it is that we need to do. I do wish your wife a speedy and complete recovery. And may I follow this up with a question to staff, please?
Sure.
The advice that we've had from the city lawyer so far, that's only been verbal advice?
Your Worship, I don't know that because we've had so many discussions with the solicitor over the number of years about this topic, but we have, as recently as last week, been re-engaged with the solicitor about specific issues, and I don't know whether that's in writing or not.
Okay.
If I may, I would suggest that that'll be covered in the report that Mr. Kipp, or Councillor Kipp rather, will be making the motion on.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnstone. Oops, I lost you. Councillor Johnstone?
No.
Did you want anything else? Any follow-up? Okay, I thought you had a follow-up.
Delegation.
Second motion.
Okay, moving second, all in favour? Opposed? Carried. Now, Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'd like to make the motion that staff review the nuisance bylaw and to include the review of possible bylaws that may assist in dealing with this issue.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. We'll do all we can to help you with it, and thank you for coming. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Mayor's report, and what I'd like to do is report on the Google Earth, the new Google Earth here. And as many of you know, Nanaimo was dubbed capital... Oh, did I miss one?
Capital of Google Earth. It's on the screen.
But I'm just going to do Mayor's report first, are we not?
That's it right there on the screen.
No, but someone tapped me about a proclamation here, but we're close. Anyway, let me start again. As many of you know, Nanaimo was dubbed capital of Google Earth by Time magazine back in 2007. Now Google Earth has issued a challenge to the world for communities to create a 3D building showing the character and history of their communities and submit them to appear for the world to see. It's very impressive already to visit Nanaimo on Google Earth and see how much of our downtown core is in 3D, but I think we can do much better than this. The nature of Google's challenge is for anyone, whether it's an individual or a team with up to 6 members, to use Google software. It's called SketchUp, and it's relatively easy to use, and I'm told to build realistic models to place in Google Earth. Building and neighborhoods say that something about the character and history of Nanaimo are encouraged. So I'm issuing a challenge to the people of Nanaimo to get involved and help us expand our Google Earth empire and hold on to our title. Anyone is welcome to get involved. The city is putting together a team of 6 people from members of various community organizations, and if you're interested in helping out with creating these models or taking photographs of buildings that would be applied to the models to make them very realistic, you can send an email to modelnanaimo@nanaimo.ca. The deadline for submitting work to Google Earth is March 1, 2010, so people will have to get working on this. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but I think we can get that much out of Nanaimo built in 3 months. So that's the challenge, and we hope you're up to it there. And those that are at home watching, I also would encourage you to get involved with this thing. And I know I do want to comment and really compliment our IT department under Per Christensen, who has done a remarkable job, the whole crew has, in getting us this very prestigious title, and I think we're very proud of the Google position that we have attained in this, and this is our chance to take it one step further. Thank you for that. Okay, proclamations. I would move that in 2009, December 26th, is Frank Day, Polar Bear Swim Day in the city of Nanaimo.
Second proclamation.
Okay, moved and seconded.
We do that?
Oh, what did you say?
We normally just accept them.
Okay, whatever. Now we're going to move into commission reports and Neck Point Park, and we'll turn this over to our chairman of the Parks and Rec.
Your Worship, Richard Harding will be given a verbal report and on Neck Point of the opening on December 17th. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to let everyone know the public was at home. On behalf of the Nanaimo Mayor and Council and the Parks, Recreation, Culture Commission, invite everyone out to the opening of the new expanded portion of Neck Point Park this Thursday, December 17th. 10:30 in the morning is the official opening, but we really want to let people know that it is going to be open, particularly open, we think, great for the holidays, so people can bring their friends and relatives out and show this new piece of park. As the public will remember, the city purchased this expanded piece of park in June of this year. And since then, the outbuildings have been removed, and we've added a few trails just so that people could have access to it. And I think if people haven't been out there yet, they'll be incredibly impressed when they go out and see this piece of park and the expansion to Neck Point. I just also want to let people know that an updated planning process for the park will start in the new year. This also gives people a chance to walk the park before we do some open houses to see what the public would like to see this piece of park become. There's some shots in there for those who haven't had a chance to get out there yet. If there's any questions, I'd be pleased to.
I understand, Mr. Harding, that the site actually of the Dean Phillinson's home has now been taken down, and it's absolutely an incredible site. And the additional 3.1 acres that we've added to the present park makes it really one of the very premier parks we have in Nanaimo, and it's certainly a credit to everyone who involved. And I think when people have a chance to get down and see that on the opening date. Will you be walking through it and taking the guided tours?
Yes, there'll be some guided tours, and then also right after that, for the weekend, people can be out there. So I'm sure the snow will be gone by next week.
Well, I was going to suggest that maybe if there's any steep slopes in there, you may want to suggest the appropriate attire for their feet, so that it's a non-skid product.
Non-skid product.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Harding. Now, Mr. Chairman, okay, seconder. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The minutes of the Parks, Recreation, Culture Commission meeting?
Move the minutes of October 28th.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second if nobody else wants to.
No. Ms. Johnstone is much faster than you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Parks, Recreation, and Culture Commission 2010 Sports Tournament Grants Request.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Johnson has this one.
Yes, Your Worship, Commission's recommendation is that Council approve the following 2010 sport tournament grant requests. Nanaimo Riptide Swim Team, $1,000. Nanaimo Canoe and Kayak Club, $500. Wellington Pleasant Valley Softball, $750. Nanaimo Pee Wee Hockey Tournament, $1,000. Nanaimo Adam A Clippers, $500. Nanaimo Adam B Clippers, $500. Nanaimo Curling Club, $2,000. Nanaimo Judo Club, $850. Nanaimo Kennel Club, $1,500. Nanaimo Ebb-Tides Master Club Swim Club, that has gone to a different committee of the volunteers in the park for recommendation. VIEX Skateboard Skate Jam Competition. and that's been tabled. And Nanaimo and District Lacrosse Association, $950, for a total of $9,550.
I got a motion.
You're moving that? Okay. Move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The Nanaimo Athletic Commission, proposed revision of the Nanaimo Athletic Commission event fees and charges. And who will be? Councillor Ungar.
I move that council receive the report pertaining to the Nanaimo Athletic Commission bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 7019.01, presented under the bylaws section of the agenda later on.
Second motion.
Move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The committee reports, 2009 Grants Advisory Committee recommendation. Committee recommends that Council 1 deny another grant to the following applicants, OG08, which is the Nanaimo Minor Baseball Association, for $22,000. We can go all through, or do you want to do these one at a time as we wander through? Sorry? Okay, so the first recommendation from the committee is to deny the grant to the Nanaimo Minor Baseball Association in the amount of $22,000. Is there a mover on that one? Mover and seconder? You moved it, Bill? Sorry. And Diana, you second? Okay, it's moved second on the floor. Discussion? Councillor Sherry.
I said question.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a question on it. Sorry. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. And award a 2010 other grant to the following applicant from Council Contingency, and that's OG01, and that's the Nanaimo Empire Day Society, a grant in the amount of $12,000, and that is recommended. And moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. An award, a security check grant to the following applicant, SC04, Nanaimo Minor Baseball Association, in the amount of $300.
So moved.
Moved? Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And last, to deny an appeal for a permissive tax exemption to the following applicant, PTE02, Nanaimo District Hospital Foundation. So moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Staff reports, Development Services. The report on the public hearing held Thursday, December 3, 2009 for bylaws 4000.467, 4000.468. Staff recommendation that Council receive the report and the minutes of the public hearing held on Thursday, December 3, 2009 for bylaws 4000.467 and 4000.468.
Second, staff recommendation.
Okay, it's moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Property gifting, 5978 Icarus Drive. Staff recommendation that Council 1 approve the acquisition of the subject property as outlined in the report, and 2 send a letter thanking the owner of the property on behalf of the municipality, and 3 authorize the mayor and the general manager of Development Services to execute the documents necessary to effect the transaction, and 4 refer the property gifting to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission for review at its and potential as a parkland.
So moved.
Moved and seconded? Moved and sorry?
All 4 items.
On all 4 items?
Yes.
Okay. And on all 4 items, it's moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I do and would like to acknowledge, unfortunately I don't have the party's name before me now, but the party that donated that property to the city, I just want to thank the individual involved. Sorry?
Store.
Thank you, Councillor Kipp. And it's a very generous donation, and I can assure you the city is greatly appreciative of this very kind offer. LA 45, permit change to liquor primary license, Dining Under the Stars, 489 Wallace Street. Staff recommendation that Council recommend the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch, LCLB, to approve the application to extend Dining Under the Stars closing hour of liquor service from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. Monday through Saturday.
Sunday.
Sorry? Monday through Sunday. Say again.
Move the staff recommendation.
It's moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And LA 46, entertainment endorsement for a food primary liquor license, Rendezvous Restaurant, 489 Wallace Street. Staff recommendation that Council not support the application to extend the closing hours of liquor service from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. Monday to Sunday, and 2, not support the application to allow patron participation entertainment within the food primary licensed area as described within Schedule B.
Move the staff recommendation.
Moved. Is there a seconder? Okay, moved and second.
Your Worship.
Okay, question? Go ahead, Councillor Oldham.
I'd move that we refer the motion and the item back to staff for further consideration, and if I have a seconder, I'll explain.
Moved and seconded. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Your Worship, I know staff is making this recommendation on the basis of the Nielsen Welsh Liquor Control report that was adopted several years ago by Council, but I'm not sure that that report anticipated split licensed premises. And in this case, we've got a line and a partial wall down the line between the two types of licenses, and it does seem to make a very awkward situation to have a closing time on one side that's different from the closing side on the other, especially when both sides have a single entrance. So I think I would like staff to exercise their judgment on this one and to give us a recommendation as to something that would be sensible to bring the two licenses in line, and that's why I think we should refer it back.
Okay, the motion to refer is on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Sherry opposed, balance of council in favor. The motion to refer proceeds. DVP 148, 809 Behringer Boulevard, 540 to 579 Serum Rise Way, 470 to 515 Menzies Ridge, 539 Stonewater Drive, 340 to 370 and 376 Poets Trail Drive. It's requested that Councillor Heriano wishing to speak with respect to DVP 148 and the staff recommendation that Council issue development variance permit number DVP 148 at 809 Behringer Boulevard, 540 to 579 Serum Rise Way, 470 to 515 Menzies Ridge, 539 Stonewater Drive, 340 to 370 and 376 Poets Trail Drive.
Move the staff recommendation.
I don't know, we have to hear.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Oldham. Just wait one.
I'm sorry, I think we have to listen to somebody first.
Okay. So, okay, we have the delegation. Sir, if we get your name and address and whether
My
you're...
name is Douglas McBride. I live at 185 Garner Crescent. I think this is my third attendance with you. My worst fear, of course, is that I might become addicted to attending council meetings.
Good heavens, that's kind of our fear too, as a matter of fact.
So my concern tonight, basically you addressed this the last time I was here in that you separated out the 4 lots that are our primary concern. Following my attendance here, I delivered my materials to both city staff and to Insight, and I haven't heard anything further on that, but I'm hopeful. What I want to really just limit my comments to is the restrictive covenant that has been promised from day one out there. I did write the city. In my legal opinion, it has an obligation to see that that's registered on the property. The normal way these things are done is they are registered concurrent with a zoning application and the plan. I'm assuming that it does not exist yet, although construction has started on phase 3 of the land, and I'm wondering whether a building permit has been issued for that. So that basically is I'm urging council to by all means approve this development permit, but to do so in a way that is going to see the restrictive covenant registered against the land on the hill, protecting the bank. And that's my reason for attending tonight.
Okay, well, maybe Mr. Kenning or Mr. Swavey, whoever wants to have a go with this, can you give us an update on whether those issues are covered? Also, Mr. Bromwich is here, and we can, and George, Mr. Hanson is here as well to deal with any questions related to it. Do you want to give it a shot and see if you can sort of enlighten us on the covenant?
Yes, thank you, Worship. This subdivision, as it's currently registered, has a no-build covenant registered on title for all of the lots, including the 4 that were removed from the development variance permit application. The development of any of these lots to remove the no-build would require a geotechnical evaluation to put a house on the lots. So that would be undertaken with all of the lots, including the ones that are removed from the development variance permit application. In terms of Insight's offer to protect the bank as a separate issue with the lots that remain in the development variance permit, they would register that covenant as part of the development variance permit process to remove the no-build from those lots. So how we would deal with lots 18 to 21 would happen at the time of a building permit, and that would be a geotechnical evaluation to evaluate how they would place the house on the lots. So yes, it is covered through the development variance permit in terms of protecting the bank for the vegetation removal, but only for the lots that remain in the development variance permit application.
Okay, we have 3 speakers, or 3 questions actually, and I guess I'll ask all 3. Will your questions be directed to staff or to the delegation? Councillor Kipp?
Oh, no, mine was from the previous one. Yeah, Worship. It's okay.
The previous one?
Yeah, the previous.
I haven't erased it yet.
You missed me on the last one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're still twitching. What, do you want to add anything while we're at it here? Okay.
Don't bury you.
Councillor Bestwick, is this to the delegation or to the council?
Just to staff. I believe that Mr. Swaby answered the question that I wished to ask, and that was just as it relates to the voluntary restrictive covenant, at which point in time it would be placed if it weren't already. So I believe you responded to that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to nail down that response. So the issuance of the development variance permit would be subject to the registration of the covenant as promised by the applicant. Is that correct?
Your Worship, there's 2 levels that Insight was offering, I think, with the development variance permit. One, the geotechnical evaluation to place a house on any of these lots. That's a normal process that the city would require. Insight was also offering to protect the landscaping. Now, where it gets a little bit gray is a geotechnical evaluation at the end of the day may talk about vegetation, but Insight was offering with the development variance permit to actually secure a no vegetation removal for a good portion of the lot from the rear property lines down. So that offer is still on the table with the variance application of the lots that are left in the variance application. But at this time it's not included in the other 4 lots because it's not part of the development variance permit application. That notwithstanding, there will be a geotechnical evaluation of those lots when they build. It's just not the vegetation protection that you're getting on these other lots.
Okay, I'm sorry, Your Worship, but Mr. Swaby continues to refer to a geotechnical evaluation, and I hear the delegation referring to a restrictive building covenant. Are those 2 things the same?
You would have to ask the delegation, but I believe he's talking about the no-build area, which is the vegetation area in the back. Just the area of the lot that will have a covenant saying you can't disturb the vegetation. And they do get mixed. The geotechnical evaluations do sometimes talk about no disturbance areas, but in this case, Insight is offering quite a large area of the lots to be restricted in terms of what vegetation you can remove as part of their offer in exchange for the development variance permit.
And that would be above and beyond any findings from a geotechnical question. Well, Mr. Bromwich is here, Your Worship, and he said that he would be here for questions. And can I ask him?
Well, maybe before we start, Mr. McBride, did you have another issue, or
just to clarify what I think is required here, and that is the original commitment from Insight was to protect the bank. Okay. In my terminology, that's a restrictive covenant. Now, I've looked at the geotechnical report that's being prepared by Insight, which I'm assuming is going to turn up in the restrictive covenant, because it's well done and it sets out where the toe of the bank is, etc. But it absolutely, in my mind, includes you don't remove the vegetation on the bank. Now, it was a surprise to me a month ago when I attended and I heard that it was expressed as you can't build on the bank without a geotechnical report. And of course, the red flag went off because, just a minute, that wasn't the deal as I remember it. So just for clarification and subject to further input, I think what we're talking about is there's protection of the bank. That's in all of our interests to do that. And I agree that as it relates to the 4 lots, that's not being covered tonight with this going ahead, and that will be addressed at some time in the future, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bromwich. Okay. Is there a seconder?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Bromwich, are there any questions that we'd like to direct to Insight now at this point? Go ahead.
So, Mr. Bromwich, are you actually putting a covenant, a restrictive covenant on those lots that are against the bank?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The covenant is to protect the bank. We've said we would do that all along. This is exactly what we're trying to do.
Yes. So this goes along with...
Notwithstanding the geotechnical issue, it's the vegetation issue we're attempting to preserve.
Okay, thank you.
That's why the variance.
So that goes hand in hand with your DVP?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions to the delegation?
Back to my motion.
Approve receipt of the
Thank
delegation.
you. Second motion.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bromwich. Okay, and...
It'll be interesting.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay.
I would move the council issue a development variance permit.
Second.
What we already voted on.
Yeah, I think we just did. Now, we're going to be doing on DVP 148 now, and all right, we're satisfied with that, are we? We're not.
Received Mr. Bromwich as a delegation. We voted on that. Councillor McNabb has just moved development permit number 148.
-09, okay.
That's right. So now we need to vote on that.
Yeah, is it moved and seconded? Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, you're seconding it. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. The RA 225, 3 Leam Road, Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, PNAC recommendation that the application be approved as presented. Staff recommendation that Council 1 receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.470, which is presented under the bylaws, and 2, direct staff to secure a trail right-of-way to register a covenant to secure road dedication, traffic calming, unit restriction, trail dedication, stormwater pre-development flows, erosion and sediment control, and community contribution.
Move the staff recommendations.
Seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
And, Your Worship, the Plan Nanaimo Advisory
Oops, sorry.
applies to the bylaw, which we'll consider later in the agenda.
Okay. Great, thank you. Now we're going to move into RA 231. Okay, and we'll just note in the file that Councillor Kipp absented himself on the perception of possible conflict. RA 231, part of 5600 Vandernook Road. Staff recommendation that Council receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.471, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And now I don't know whether Councillor Kipp, I think, has another one.
No, that's earlier.
Councillor Kipp, you have another one later on, don't you? That you'll give me some. You'll give me some notice, I trust. RA 234 5040 Hammond Bay Road. Staff recommendation that Council receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.472, which is presented under the bylaws section of the agenda. And 2, direct staff to secure the community contribution and to register a covenant to secure shared vehicle access, general building design and development cost charges, or DCCs.
So moved.
Moved.
1 and 2.
1 and 2. Good.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Official Community Plan Amendment application and rezoning application OCP 048 and RA 216446 Milton Street, PNAC's recommendation that Council consider approving official community plan OCP amendment application OCP 048 and rezoning application RA 216 for a multiple family residential development at 446 Milton Street. The staff recommendation that Council 1 receive the report pertaining to official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009-6500.008, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 2 receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009.4000.469, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 3 direct staff to secure lane widening, rail signal installation, stormwater pre-development flows, erosion and sediment control, and community contribution. What's your pleasure?
Move the staff recommendations.
Good. Moved. Seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Official Community Plan Amendment Application OCP 51, Ocean View Master Plan 950-960-1170-1260-1270 Phoenix Way. PNAC's recommendation that Council consider approving official community plan OCP amendment application OCP 51 for the Ocean View Master Plan regarding 950-960-1170-1260 and 1270 Phoenix Way. And the staff recommendation is that Council receive the report pertaining to the official community plan amendment bylaw 2009 number 6500.007, which is presented on the bylaws section of this agenda. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? We show Councillor Patchy opposed. Balance of Council in favor. The motion passes. Unsightly premises for 626 Haliburton Street has been pulled. We'll move into unsightly premises at 4715 Hammond Bay Road. It is requested that Council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 4715 Hammond Bay Road. Staff recommendation that Council, pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990 number 3704 and amendments thereto, direct the owners of 4715 Hammond Bay Road to remove discarded construction material and debris, household furniture, household items, automobile parts, wood debris, broken fence panels, household garbage, and miscellaneous items from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be undertaken by the city's agent at the owner's cost.
Anybody here? Second motion. Move the staff recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, unsightly premises, 5492 Mildmay Road. It's requested that Council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 5492 Mildmay Road. Staff recommendation that Council, pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990 and number 3704 and amendments thereto, direct the owners of 5492 Mildmay Road to remove the derelict Chrysler Intrepid, actually, automobile, discarded household garbage, household furniture, automobile tires, and miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days. The work will be undertaken by the city's agents at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Yeah, good question. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to Mildmay Road while we're there? Okay, so we're carrying on. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're going into unsightly premises for 3092 Nayland Drive. It's requested that Council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises 3092 Nayland Drive, you see. Staff recommendation that Council, pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990 number 304 and amendments thereto, direct the owners of 3092 Nayland Drive to remove discarded household items, household furniture, construction debris, and miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be undertaken by the city's agent at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Seconder, move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unsightly premises 994 Park Avenue. It is requested that Council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 994 Park Avenue. Staff's recommendation that Council, pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990 number 3704 and amendments thereto, direct the owners of 994 Park Avenue to remove 4 derelict vehicles: a Toyota Land Cruiser, a GMC pickup truck, a Ford flat deck pickup, and a travel trailer, lumber, tires, household garbage, appliances, furniture, wood pallets, barbecue, propane tank, and miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be undertaken by the city's agent at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second motion. Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unsightly premises at 635 Terminal Avenue. This is the 8th complaint for that site. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 635 Terminal Avenue. Staff's recommendation that council, pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990, number 3704, and amendments thereto, direct the owners of 635 Terminal Avenue to remove the accumulation of construction materials, lumber, discarded windows, and miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days. The work will be undertaken by the city's agents at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Nobody there? Seconder, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unresolved building deficiencies. Notice on title, section 5.7. It's requested that the council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies, bylaw contravention notices for the properties listed below. And it's staff's recommendation that council by resolution instruct the Director of Legislative Services to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the properties listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia under section 5.7 of the Community Charter. The very first one, 1048 Victoria Road. Anyone in attendance? That's good because it's an illegal grow operation. You'd probably be arrested. Enclosed carport to create living space and front addition. Item 2, number 8, 4th Street. Another illegal grow operation, finished basement and closed storage area. We have just those two, then we go on to...
the staff recommendation.
Moved and second, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. We move on to structural removal order, illegal grow operation 8 4th Street. It's the one we just previously covered. It is requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the illegal grow operation at number 8 4th Street. And the staff recommendation that council pursuant to section 7.2 and 7.3 of the Community Charter order the owner of 8 4th Street to remove the structure. It's fun for me, I have to read this. Or bring it up to standard within 30 days, or the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Seconder, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Structural removal order, illegal grow operation, 1048 Old Victoria Road. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to someone out there that... just checking. I thought you were going to scurry up to the microphone here. It is requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the illegal grow operation at 1048 Victoria Road. And I trust, Mr. Tucker, you won't be speaking to this one, of course. Staff recommendation that council pursuant to section 7.2 and 7.3 of the Community Charter order the owner of 1048 Old Victoria Road to remove the structure or bring it up to standard within 30 days, or the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Seconder, moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Corporate services, water, sewer, user fee subsidies. Staff recommendation, the council received the report pertaining to user fee subsidy bylaw 2009 number 7095, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda.
So moved.
Seconder, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Community services, the purchase of a 100-foot aerial platform. Staff recommendation is that council, 1, award the purchase of a new 100-foot aerial platform at the cost of $1,066,692 to Wholesale Fire Rescue of Calgary, Alberta, and 2, approve the purchase of related equipment at a cost of $100,000.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. Okay. On the floor, Councillor Bestwick, you go ahead first.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question to staff. There won't be any required facility upgrades or improvements to accommodate this new purchase?
Your Worship, that's correct. We have to do minor alterations at Fire Station 1, removing some current plumbing and moving it up, but they're minor in nature.
And just a second question, Your Worship. Approve the purchase of related equipment at a cost of $100,000. I trust that items 1 and 2 are not to exceed the numbers as presented?
That would be correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just 2 questions myself. The first is that I understand it's going to Fire Hall 1, and it's obviously, I hope there's a room to accommodate it inside. For $1 million, I don't want to lay it out in the street. I think the other thing is that you may want to comment on it. I think it's important for the public to understand that the vehicle that it is replacing is a 1977 model, and with some limitations to what this new one will do. Do you want
that's
to
correct,
just
Your
quickly
Worship.
expand?
The current unit at Fire Station Number 1 is a 1977 Snorkel. From the life cycle of that vehicle has come to its end, both from a mechanical perspective for certainly assurance of dependability, and in addition to that, the life cycle from the insurance underwriter's perspective. So we enjoy a 5 rating at the commercial scale right now, and that's with 2 aerials within the system. So normally aerials have a 25-year life cycle. This unit is 32 years old. We're about 7 years over what would normally be expected. So we've got extensions up till this date. So it's from the insurance perspective, it's time to replace.
Okay. Councillor Unger.
Worship, to the fire chief. Could you explain, please, what a 100-foot aerial platform is? And it's not an antenna, but I think people sitting at home may not know what we're talking about, and what can it do?
Your Worship, an aerial platform is basically a ladder that's 100 feet long. It has a platform on the end, basically to contain either firefighters or, if you're making a rescue, the victim of that rescue. In addition to that, this particular unit is, the name of it is a SkyArm, and the last boom actually articulates on it. So you can go up and over a parapet or up over a peaked roof or into below grade situations for rescue. So the unit that we've come up with at the end of the day is very versatile.
Thank you.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Chief Lambert, I understand that the 1977 vehicle which is being replaced is going to go up for sale at some point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you have any idea what the value of that is, what you might be asking for it?
Well, I think given its age, and I really don't see other fire departments wanting it at its age. It may be useful for some other commercial application. I'm not really sure. Certainly the cabin chassis is probably the best component of it, and given the age of it, there may be some minimal value on that, but that would it would go into the city's disposal process for fleet, and we would accept probably whatever bid we could get for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have Councillor Johnstone.
Yes, thank you, Chief Lambert.
Just ignore him.
I know, I do ignore him. Could you please explain to the taxpayers that this is not going to be paid for under the current taxation, and how that the payment is going to be apportioned over the next?
Well, perhaps the Director of Finance can help me out here, but it is coming out of reserve. And my understanding is that it's been we've been putting funds in over a period of time to afford this.
Yeah, that's correct, Your Worship. Every year, funds are set aside for every vehicle in the entire city's fleet, including these fire vehicles. It's much like depreciation might be used in other settings, so funds are set aside every year and are kept in reserve, and when a new vehicle is required, the purchase comes from the reserve funds.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I might just comment that it is in the Chief's opinion, a very necessary piece of equipment. I think Council is, by and large, is understanding and supportive. But once again, when every time we're challenged with the responsibility of trying to reduce taxes, this piece of equipment represents about 1.5% of the tax increase. So while it has been budgeted for, and so the impact won't be that significant, still it's over $1 million investment in our community, and one that has to be made, but it comes with an expense like everything else. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Information items?
Vote on it?
Oh, sorry. I moved ahead too soon. Yeah. Christian thing to do. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Move receipt of the information-only items.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the information items that should be, any questions related to it?
Yes. I'd like...
Go ahead, Mr. Councillor Sherry.
I'd like item E dealt with separately, please.
Okay. E, like echo.
Question on the other ones?
Okay, just quickly reading through them. Question on the other ones? All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. And on item E, report from Mr. Harding, Director of Parks, Recreation, Culture, Piper Park Old Museum Development. Councillor Sherry, did you have any comments on that, or just...
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. I asked for this report not that long ago, and I appreciate the timely haste that this was pulled together. And there is process that have been identified within this report that is I have no problem with. It was decided that they would go through these open houses and that, but the concern that I have with, and this is under Parks and Recreation, and it's under Parks, and what value does this council have on parks? We just heard this earlier this evening that we're opening the new portion of Neck Point Park later this week. So I believe this council is interested in supporting parks. Well, I'm interested in supporting parks, plus I'm also interested in protecting the Nanaimo history. And I say that the Nanaimo Museum building, which was built as a centennial project in 1967, was not just the city of Nanaimo, because the city of Nanaimo was not an amalgamated city at that time. It was, I call it the central part of Vancouver Island, because when they were raising these funds for this building, there was people in Lantzville, Cedar, and Yellow Point, and the rest of the improvement district, be it Chase River, Harewood, Northfield, East Wellington, or whatever. It was a community venture. Now, to read this report and see on, especially on page 191, the second paragraph from the bottom, it says, is the old museum there. However, it is staff's recommendation at this point that the entire building be removed. For what? Because when we were building, in the process of developing the new museum, which was to go into the this center here, the museum board of the day was requesting that at least the basement be maintained, so that would be storage area for the current museum, and also give them the opportunity of having a shop to construct displays for the current museum. By this recommendation to tear the whole thing down and not have anything, where would the current museum have to go in order to build any displays? Are we going to have to find someplace else within the community to do this? I think that's short-sightedness in what's being recommended here. Also, another part of this report, I think if we proceed on this avenue, we're just going to open up Pandora's box, and everybody's concerned about the budget, and if we're prepared to do this for a developer, then we better be prepared to do this for the average Joe citizen that's lived in this community for many years and paid their taxes. And that's with regards to do with the vegetation in this. Because if you reread the report, is that to accommodate a hotel, it may require the removal of some vegetation. And in the report, they identify several trees that could have to be removed. Well, removed for what? So that they can have a view. We'll talk to the people on Departure Bay Road and the lakes of Solaire, where those trees along the boulevard and that, they would like them chopped down so they could have a better view of their community. I think they would have a just cause to expect the same kind of treatment of removing growth in a restricted area. Now, the other thing that's not addressed here is if we're removing the building to accommodate a view for the hotel, and we're removing vegetation to accommodate the hotel, how much control is this hotel going to have over the open space that is left? And are they prepared to compensate the community for it? Because I surely don't see any idea of this, especially this new part down at Neck Point. If somebody owns property across the road from this park, or adjacent to the park, are we going to allow removal of vegetation there so that they can have a better view, or the utilization of this space? There's space that's been requested by staff to accommodate various portions of our own organization, about renting space here or renting space there because of the cramped location. Here's a classic building that could be modified to address some of those concerns. Now it says in the report that there's $1 million a repair in that. Well, the city has had control. How long has the Nanaimo District Museum been in that building? How often, how much rent do they pay towards the Parks and Recreation? None. But there has been requests from that board in order, they found some deficiencies, and they've put those requests before the Parks and Recreation on an annual deal, okay? And have they been addressed? And the question I ask everybody here, within your own residence of your house, if you need a new roof, are you going to pay the money to refurbish it and build it and put it back into shape? Or are you going to tear it down and start over from scratch? And I think it needs to be identified that are we tearing the Nanaimo history down and destroying it? Because I can refer to the Civic Arena. They couldn't get it down fast enough, but boy, that place sure would be in great use this year if they just left it for the dry floor portion of it because of the work that has to be done at the Frank Crane Arena. Now here you got a lacrosse club. They're going to have to go into different facilities this year. And this is what gets me the most, is here we talking about history of Nanaimo. How many in this room were here around Nanaimo in 1967? and work towards these projects. So, Mr. Chairman, it's all fine and dandy to make these recommendations and that, and if we look on page 192, there's options to consider other than the removal are, and there's 4 items. Include the museum building as future use into the park planning process, request staff that develop a public request for proposal and operation of the building, add the museum building improvements as part of the 5-year operating capital budget. But I think that before you start doing that you should do number 2 first, and it's a combination of the 3 above. Because just to say destroy, no thank you. I think that the Nanaimo citizens, not only the new people that's come to this community to enjoy the amenities that we have, but those people that have developed this community deserve better consideration.
Okay, maybe if I can, to Mr. Kenny. Mr. Kenny, do you want to maybe just sort of reiterate what I understand? What's staff's position now? There's no urgency on this decision, and I just wondered, can you maybe just give us a review of it?
Certainly. Even though staff have been totally frank in the report and saying that at this time, if we were asked to make a recommendation, we would recommend it be demolished primarily for budget reasons. However, we recognize that that's probably premature, but we wanted to be open about where we were coming from. We believe no decision is necessary at this point. There is no urgency. The museum is using space in there for the time being to do their building of exhibits. I think that my recommendation to council would be to proceed with the park planning process in due course. Perhaps if and when somebody comes forward with a hotel proposal, it may expedite the process. Council may want to move it up at that point. I do want to comment, though, about Councillor Sherry's comment about removing trees, because it was never intended to remove trees for the view for the hotel. The intention was some of the trees, and you'll see the ones marked, tree number 11, 13, and 14, are right on the edge of the bluff, and in fact some of them encroach over the property line into the hotel property, and some of those would have had to be trimmed, and there is one Douglas fir, unfortunately, that is right on the edge, and it may have to be considered for removal for safety reasons. So it was never about the view, and I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, we have some more speakers. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I concur with everything that Councillor Sherry has just brought up. There's absolutely no doubt, if there ever was, that this whole idea to tear down the Centennial building is precipitated by a hotel, which we don't know whether it will ever be there. And even if the hotel comes there, we've had these examples that Councillor Sherry referred to, the arena, the foundry, all being torn down way too fast to my liking, and I don't think we have made any effort up to this point to really, truly, in every sense of the word, try and find honest alternatives for this building. And I think that really has to be done regardless of a hotel. And so, again, thank you, Councillor Sherry.
Okay, Councillor McNabb.
I just read this report, and Rich and I worked on it. I just can't see anywhere in there that it says destroy, destroy, destroy. I can't find it. The point is, we, as a Parks and Recreation culture, we wanted to give council members a complete overall look at the whole thing. And if you're looking at 1.3 million, almost 1.35 million, and then at one budget meeting not too long ago, some council members said, well, we're going to keep the line on tax to 1%. Well, if we put $1,300,000 into this, that's 2% in taxes. Is that right, Finance Department? So, you know, I am of opinion that I'd love to see that building stay there. but we're going to have at least 2% increase in taxes. Thank you.
Councillor Holden.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's interesting that the report reveals that the redevelopment process for that park was interrupted in 2006, and that we've talked about it earlier this evening, and that if it proceeded, it would involve meeting with community stakeholders, construction of a design concept for the park, referral to the public through open houses, referral to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission, back to council. I mean, there's a whole public process that would be involved before any decision would be made about refurbishing to some level, inviting others to make use of the building, or possibly removing the building. It just appears like we're jumping the gun and making a bunch of assumptions that are not really warranted yet. We haven't even conducted the process. This is simply a report. The report says right at the beginning there's no urgency to this. I don't think there's going to be any bulldozers going up there to knock down the building anytime, let alone anytime soon. So there just seems to be a kind of alarmist thing going on here that I'm having trouble with. I think we should allow the process to work. Now, the one question I have in mind is, why can't we conduct this process regardless of whether there's a hotel there or not? This is a public park, and we're going to have a public process on it regardless.
Your Worship, we could. As Richard said earlier, though, one of the first questions we always get in a planning process is what's happening next door, what would be happening to the hotel, and right now we can't answer that. And there are some important interrelationships, because I think one of the beauties of this hotel site is the fact that there may be a strong reason to put an access from the park to the hotel to allow park users to go into the hotel, and for hotel users to go into the park, and then to access down to the waterfront with the proposed stairway. So there's all kinds of interface issues that I think would be responsible. It would be nice if we could answer. Now, that's not to say we have to. We could do a planning process without the hotel, but it is a big unknown and creates a fair bit of uncertainty.
Okay, if I can just carry on. The report says, among other things, in identifying some planning objectives such as creating an attractive, safe and vibrant downtown park that interfaces well with adjacent facilities and so on. It also says that given the access, location and exposure issues that made the site difficult for the museum to operate and attract users over the years, other potential users of the building would experience the same constraints. So, delightful as the building is in its shape and design and concept and so on, it appears from staff's perspective in this report anyway, that it has not been as well used as it might have been if it had been differently located. It's not so much the design that's at the issue, but the location of it. Is that correct?
It's both, Your Worship. I believe the design is very pleasing to the eye too, but one of the facts of life with that building is that there's a lot of concrete interior walls that make it quite inflexible. And also, and I think the museum will be reporting on this in the near future, their attendance is up dramatically in their new location, and they attribute a lot of that to the fact that there's more pedestrian and vehicular traffic and easier access at the new location. So they did feel quite constrained by their location before, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted to go into the Port of Nanaimo Centre. Okay, well, so my final point, Your Worship, is that if we then followed the planning and park principles that would make this this whole area, this park, more accessible to downtown and more part of the walkways through downtown from the waterfront and so on, it may be that that building would have more usefulness and would be worth refurbishing. That's what I mean about it. We don't have the process done. We don't have the results of that process that may lead us to a decision to keep the building for a whole range of purposes. So, I think we should just receive the report, Your Worship, before we start making mistakes about this.
Okay, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. I was just going to make the point that this is a report. However, when we do suggest that there's contemplations of being alarmists, I, for one, was of the understanding that we took the Civic Arena down to show confidence and leadership with our future hotel partner, to express that our intent was 100% committed. And here we are without one of our prized historic buildings that paid for itself countless times over. When I read this first line, it says, "This issue has no urgency. It has no urgency at this time." I would suggest that this issue does have some urgency at this time, in so much as that we do not let this venue deteriorate any further than it already has, and that we do expend some dollars on it, unlike we spent on the Civic Arena, so that we wouldn't have the argument placed before us that it would be cheaper to tear it down than it would be to retain and or maintain it. So that's, excuse me, an argument that I would like not to get into in about 2 years, that we haven't put any resources into this facility. We just spoke toward a $1.1 million purchase of a piece of equipment, and there's a fleet replacement fund, which we say doesn't come from taxes or it won't impact our tax burden. However, it is monies collected from the taxpayers that happens to come out of a fleet reserve fund. So my question to staff is we own, operate, and maintain this building?
That's correct. It's owned by the city. The city pays a modest amount now to keep it reasonably warm and dry.
And do we have any such facility replacement funds similar to a fleet replacement fund in our budget?
For this building, there's nothing budgeted for upgrades, no, Your Worship.
Not specific to this building. We have a fleet replacement that is specific to all, I heard you say, every vehicle in our fleet. If we own, operate, and maintain something, then do we only put capital dollars into facilities that we own and operate, or do we put a certain percentage and or allocate dollars to annual repair and maintenance?
Well, Your Worship, yes, of course, we're putting money every year into annual repairs and maintenance, but we don't have a formal depreciation reserve fund for buildings like we do for equipment, and perhaps we should. But right now we don't, and that's one of the facts that we're living with, that there isn't money set aside for these buildings, and I wish there was, but the fact is that there isn't.
And my final point would be that with our current annual operating budget, if, depending on your value systems and where it is that you would like to see, and the community would like to see our monies and tax dollars spent, we may in fact still be able to maintain a 1% increase while still retaining some of our history, culture, and our heritage. So I think if we do look closely enough, we would be able to accomplish. Thank you.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Previous delegation mentioned that there was an applicant who had some resources available, so we may be, spinning our wheels here a little bit. I know that our manager of Parks Recreation is compiling a list of interested persons that would like to use the existing building, and there was some mention that there are resources available, so perhaps the public consultation process is the way to go, and listen to all of the applications and see how we go forward with it.
Okay. All righty. Question on item 12E. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I missed you. You snuck in there at the last minute here. The 11th hour, is it?
Yeah. Well, I want to get on to a bit of stuff here. We got a staff recommendation, and they said that they wanted to be open about it. They thought that it could be tore down and that would be cheaper. And that's prior to any public input. And so that decision does ring with me, because as Councillor Holdham said, the vibrant parks we want to create. Well, I see Civic Arena in a vibrant pile of brick right now. That's what concerns me. And it is. I hear about this building. It's a beautiful shape. We hear that it's an architectural feature. But I hear them saying that, well, it can't fit in. We got walls that are out of place. I think we're too much cubicle mentality, and a few angled walls would sometimes do some of us better. The Phantom Hotel is back at us again. It's going to be a historical building, that hotel. Because right now it looks to be responsible for just completely starting tearing down parts of our culture. And I support Councillor Sherry. Why I have a concern that's coming forward, when I look at the recommendations and I hear that, oh, it's cheaper to tear it down, we can redo this building for $100 a square foot by one of our best engineering companies, an estimate. At $100 a square foot, I cannot build commercial construction. That building, 10,000 square feet, would cost me $300 a square foot or more, maybe $400 now to build. So from a recycling perspective, when I look at 602 Halliburton Street, I look at the Nanaimo Youth Services building, I look at City Hall that still kind of functions and works after all these years. We can make these things work if we shift our mind to saying, oh, tearing it down is cheaper. Rebuilding a building of 10,000 square feet for $1 million is cheap, so I don't know where we're getting some of our thinking from. I mean, it's cheap to tear it down, $200,000, but we get 10,000 square feet for just over $1 million with a reasonable seismic upgrade from a 10% load-bearing seismic rate to a 24, which is our current standard. So when I look at hearing that it's cheaper to tear it down, I don't think so from my perspective. And I think I am concerned when these reports come forward, because prior to hearing public input or public park input, we're thinking we should tear it down. We've already got the thought in our mind. We're not open-minded at that point, and it concerns me. So thank you for letting me have my little 2 bits worth.
Okay. Last chance. Any other?
Move to receive the report.
All in favor? Opposed? Are you in favor or opposed? You can't be both. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to go into the reconsideration of bylaws.
I move that zoning bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.465, which is to rezone the properties on Salmon Road from single-family large lots to residential duplex RM1. I move that this bylaw be adopted.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.467, which is to rezone property at 522 Mitchell Drive from single-family residential RS1 to comprehensive development district zone CD7. I move that this bylaw be passed at third reading.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.468, to rezone 6155 Metro Drive from single-family residential RS1 to mixed-use commercial to facilitate mixed-use development. I move that this bylaw be passed at third reading.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that traffic and highway regulation bylaw, amendment bylaw 2008, number 5000.037, which is to amend Schedule A, parking fees, and Schedule E, fine schedule. I move that this bylaw be adopted.
Second motion.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that waterworks rate and regulation bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 7004.04, which is to replace Schedule A water rates and Schedule B fire line rates, be adopted.
Second motion.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that cemetery bylaw 2009, number 7084, to regulate the operation and maintenance of cemeteries. I move that this bylaw be adopted.
Second motion.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that the garbage and recycle collection bylaw, amendment bylaw 2009, number 7089.01, to replace Schedule A rates and charges. Move that this bylaw be adopted.
Second motion.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2009, number 7096, is to provide for the borrowing of money in anticipation of revenue, be adopted.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Introduction of bylaws. I move that the Nanaimo...
Okay. Just let the record show that Councillor Kipp has absented himself on a perceived conflict of interest.
I move that the Nanaimo Athletic Commission Bylaw Amendment Bylaw 2009 number 7019.01, which is to replace Schedule A, Nanaimo Athletic Commission fees. I move that this bylaw receive first reading.
Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed?
I move that the Nanaimo Athletic Commission Bylaw 2009 number 7019.01 be passed at second reading.
Seconder? Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move that the Nanaimo Athletic Commission Bylaw Amendment Bylaw 2009 number 7019.01 be passed at third reading.
Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. If you want to let Councillor Kipp return.
I move that the user fee subsidy bylaw 2009 number 7095, it's to provide for user fee subsidies for those persons deemed to be in special circumstances. I move that this bylaw be given its first reading.
Is there a seconder? Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move that user fee subsidy bylaw 2009 number 7095 be passed at second reading.
Seconded. Moved. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move that the user fee subsidy bylaw 2009 number 7095 be passed at third reading.
Seconder. Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Introduction of bylaws. I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.469, which is to rezone 446 Milton Street, from Old City low density residential RM9 to Old City medium density multifamily residential RM10 to facilitate the construction of multifamily development. Move that this bylaw be passed at first reading.
Is there a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded.
Just a question.
Question on it. Councillor Bestwick.
I meant to ask it earlier in the agenda. I apologize for taking this time. Parking for this complex consists of?
Your Worship, I believe it's 9 parking spaces. We'll just look it up.
On site?
Yes. All on site.
Thank you.
Okay, that answers the question, is it?
That answers my question.
Okay. Question. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.469 be passed at second reading.
Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.470 to rezone 3 Leam Road from single family residential to medium density residential. I move that this bylaw receive first reading.
Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Move that the zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.47 be passed at second reading.
Moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.471.
Okay. We'll just let the record show that Councillor Kipp has left the room on a perception of conflict.
Rezone part of 5600 Vandernook Road to rezone part of the subject property from rural agricultural A2 to single family residential. I move that this bylaw receive its first reading.
Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.471 be passed at second reading.
Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.472 to rezone property at 5040 Hammond Bay Road from single family residential to duplex zone and single family small lot zone. I move that this bylaw be passed at first reading.
Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.472 be passed at second reading.
Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Move that the official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 6500.007 as it relates to property at 950-960-1170-1260-1270 Phoenix Way to include the Oceanside Master Plan with the OCP to permit a comprehensive mixed-use resort development be passed at first reading.
Moved and seconded. Question. Councillor Pachi.
Thank you, Worship. You knew this was coming, I think, and don't worry, I'm not going to make this a long night, although I could.
Please.
I just want to make a comment on this master plan. I attended the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee meeting, which recommended that it be sent to Council as it is. And I want you to know that there are a couple of things missing here from the last time that you saw this kind of plan. One is the proposed marina. That's out of the picture. And the other thing, of course, and very serious to my mind, is that there was the occasion where Ocean View, Cable Bay, came together with Island Timberlands to request from this council that we redesignate a sizable portion of I-4, heavy industrial land, in order to accommodate this plan as a whole. And as you noticed, that section is out of the window as well. And when Mr. Brower of Ocean View was asked by someone at PNEC what happened there, his answer was kind of cavalier. He said, "That's no longer a concern of mine." And I'm somewhat offended by that.
Okay, if I can, I'm certainly not representing anyone here, just making an observation and saying that it's my understanding that that Cable Bay, or now under the new name Ocean View, is it, were unable to come to a lease agreement with the property owner where the actual Cable Bay Marina site was to be located, and as such it was withdrawn. But that's subject to comment from anyone here. Having said that, is that
no, not quite through yet.
Okay.
And you know, I have really gone through this master plan from page 1 to the bottom.
I don't think anyone would doubt that.
And there are on page 84 and 85 and 86 of this master plan, we talk about water, we talk about hydro, we talk about sanitary sewer, and you know, we have had verbal guarantees galore from these people that the infrastructure costs that are connected with this kind of development would be all on the shoulder of Ocean View Resort and Spa. And, you know, I had an opportunity at an earlier meeting to ask Mr. Sims of our water department where this hookup would be, for instance, from the Duke Point water main to Cable Bay or Ocean View. That is a distance of 5 kilometers, he told me. That is very, very expensive infrastructure. And so goes sewer. So and so go some more pumping stations that eventually might be required as well. So go roads, infrastructure, overpasses. It's all taxpayer money. I would like to have something in writing from these people that they intend to pay for every last penny of that. And until that happens, I will be very doubtful. I won't bother you with urban sprawl and taking away from the downtown effort, which is the same in my mind as Sandstone. So I can't support this.
Okay. Councillor Holden.
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the reasons that the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee that I chair recommended this development, I believe, and certainly influenced my own views on it, was that it did not contain the piece that was added, the piece of property that was added to the resort designation under the OCP not too long ago, that is a buffer, or at least provides a buffer, between the proposed resort area and the industrial lands that Councillor Pachi refers to. And in fact, those lands continue to be industrial lands and to be zoned industrial. So I found it somewhat easier to accept the concept as presented as a master plan without those lands involved. And I would hope that staff will be looking at how to redesignate those lands back to the industrial uses that they now have. But in any event, the plan as it is now conceived and presented is a bit smaller than we've seen before, has fewer units on it, has greater diversity in terms of the housing types and the commercial areas involved. Yes, it's unfortunate that it, in some people's view anyway, that it lost the marina, but that's perhaps one of the things that simply couldn't be done with the kind of waterfront that they do have with that property. In the future, and by the way, I would certainly agree with Councillor Paggi that all the commitments that have been made have been that the developer will be providing all services to that site, and that there is no need or reason for the city to even think that there may be some public charges there. We would have to make a commitment at that point, and we haven't made any such commitment. But in the future, if that property did get developed as a resort center, and with a first-class golf course on it, not my sport, by the way, but if it attracted a goodly number of people, and there were a number, and the tax values from there were as predicted, we would have once again a significant tax base for the city to continue to develop and grow and change in ways that we can't imagine in the future. But if we don't embrace at least some of these proposals for new kinds of work, new kinds of play. What is our slogan? Work, play, and live. New ways to live, and so on. Then we are going to let our future down. This proposal for the Cable Bay area does complement the Sandstone development quite well. It provides features and types of housing and so on that the Sandstone development doesn't do. So it's together that these projects would really develop our South End if and when they're fully built out. At least I think it's worth taking this to public hearing and to see what other refinements could be made as a result of that.
Thank you. Councillor Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, I won't be supporting this because where my biggest problem is here it's outside of what I call downtown Nanaimo, be it Chase River. There's the distance where you have to go into the regional district to get back into the city because of the Gracie's Finger during amalgamation to get the industrial park into the Nanaimo taxation deal. If the northwest portion of our community, be it Jinglepot Road, East Wellington Road, and those properties were given the same opportunity for development, even though they're outside of the urban containment boundary. I think they deserve just as much consideration as these people. And that's some of the problems that I have with not only this development, but the Sandstone deal. And you start talking about, the taxation that's going to be garnered through this development. Well, taxation doesn't go for the increase the costs, because you just look at what we've been talking about. They're going to be requiring a fire department out there. So how much is the building? How many people are we going to have to man that station out there? And all those additional costs. Are they going to be able to supply that cost themselves, or is it and it's going to go into the big barrel of the greater city to contribute toward these things, and that's part of the growth there. So I've been at seminars where growth doesn't pay for itself. It's just add more additional costs for there. And basically, those are my grave concerns, and those are the things that I can't support.
Thank you. I'll call on I'd just like to make a comment myself that I have maybe a different view on it than some of the others, and I do support the project, and I look to what's happened in the Comox Valley, and specifically what's happened with the golfing in that area. Crown Isle, just after it was built, I think had some struggling. They had some financial concerns for sure. WestJet came along, committed to go into the Comox airport. They had a considerable amount of lift out of both in Alberta from both Edmonton and Calgary, and the turnaround and response that the hotel resort up there received was incredible, and I think Crown Isle has flourished as a result of it. And this complex not only has a golf course, but let's recognize that tomorrow, on the 15th of December, the Nanaimo Airport will be opening their new runway structure. They've added 1,600 feet to their 5,000. I have a 6,600-foot runway. I would like to think that Nanaimo would also have the opportunity to bring in flights from Edmonton and elsewhere, and that they could take advantage of the golfing that we'll have available quite adjacent to the airport. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. I was just going to wish to support this project and taking this to the next stage. And all along, we've had the same questions about services and so on to the site, and we've been it's been expressed on more than one occasion that the developer will be bearing those costs. And when you make reference to Crown Isle, let's not forget Arbutus Ridge, and let's not forget Fairwinds Resort, and all of those things are long-term build-outs that I don't even believe that they probably were as well planned with as much foresight and consideration as this particular project. I have every confidence that in 25 years from now, there is growth. This is assembled property. We don't have assembled properties that we have the ability to put such a comprehensive design and plan and package together. And if we were to take the alternative route to what it could currently be utilized for, I think that we would be wishful that we really take a serious look at what this development will bring, and one simply not go very much further than Fairwinds. And I concur with the mayor that Courtenay and the Comox area is a great region with a great downtown and now outlying areas that serve their population. So I'll be supporting this project.
Okay, question on the motion. It's moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? I see Councillor Sherry and Councillor Patchy opposed. Balance of council in favour. The motion passes.
I move that the official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 6000.07 be passed at second reading.
Second motion. Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? I have Councillor Sherry, Councillor Patchy opposed. Balance of council in favour. The motion passes.
I move that the official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 6500.008 is relates to 446 Milton Street to include a site-specific policy to permit a 7-unit multifamily residential development. I move that this bylaw be passed at first reading.
Second motion. Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
I move the official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 6500.008 be passed at second reading.
Seconded motion. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
That's the bylaws, Mr. Chairman, and I would move receipt of the correspondence.
I'll second the motion. Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. The council appointments, there would be none. We're looking at establishing the committees at this point, and we hope to have some appointments announced early in January. Do we have any delegations pertaining to items not on the agenda? Sorry?
Business.
Okay, sorry.
As everybody knows, we're in the budget process right now, and we're looking at every piece of the expenditures from the city, and we need to know how they impact the various expenditures and where the money is spent. With that in mind, I move that staff prepare a report detailing the activities and expenditures of the Economic Development Office in the past year.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Sorry? Question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now, do we have any delegations that pertain to items not on the agenda up to 10 minutes?
Carried.
Seeing none. Question period, agenda items only. And the first thing we're hoping for, Mr. Taylor, is a bulletin on what the snow looks like outside from you.
Well, the bulletin is the Canucks won 3-1.
Canucks won 3-1? Well, that's worthwhile.
We're going to stay until it rains tomorrow.
Please, no.
In the cemetery bylaw, there's a third missing of the Bowen Road Cemetery. When's that going to be addressed? Or is it for road purposes?
Maybe for someone on staff wants to have a...
Your Worship, I didn't hear the question.
About the cemetery, could you repeat it again, Mr. Taylor?
Bowen Road right away.
Your bylaw is missing a third of the area of
yes, Your Worship.
Cemetery. Is it for road or what's it for?
Your Worship, I intended to say earlier, if I didn't say it clearly, Fred pointed that out to us the same time at this meeting, and we'll check that tomorrow. I don't know, nobody here on staff knows the answer to that. We'll review that.
Okay.
Report.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Does that mean the bylaw would be amended?
If it's
I think
necessary.
they're going to look at that tomorrow, as I understand, and we'll get back as quickly as we can.
Going on before.
My next question is, if you see hydro trucks, shock cable trucks, telephone trucks, tree removal trucks, they're all the same design as your snorkel. And I was just interested to know what the price difference is between a 100-foot snorkel and the ladder truck you're buying, because the ladder truck seems to now adopt the ideas of the snorkel truck by having an arm at the end to move around.
Articulated, yeah.
And I'm wondering when you see all these other operations that get men up and down in the air very quickly against, say, a fireman climbing a 100-foot ladder.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I was going to say it's a very...
What's the difference in price? Is it...
Your Worship, the recent pumper trucks that the city bought were in the range of $750,000. So all fire trucks are expensive, and these are even more. But the basic fire truck is substantially more, I suggest, than the basic truck that BC Hydro uses. Different purposes.
And would this be like the last ladder truck going to all calls, including ambulance calls?
I believe that then the fire chief can add to this comment, but I believe this truck will only go to first responder ambulance call as a last resort if there's no other trucks available.
Yeah, that's what they reported today, so I'm sure that's accurate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Hopefully adjourn.
Let's see. This is the last meeting. Thank you very much. This is the last meeting for December. Thank you very much, Councillor Kipp. But and all the background rhetoric that goes with it. But I would like to wish everyone here a very happy Christmas and have a very prosperous New Year, and certainly to our viewers at home, the same thing. It's time to enjoy, spend time with your family. We hope you have a wonderful time. And if it's snowing outside, Councillor Kipp, if you'd be allowed to assist us by walking us to our cars, that would be appreciated. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.